The puzzle on my screen was mine, except it wasn't. Same grid, same theme entries running through the center, same byline at the top. Ellis Crane. My name, in the plain serif font the syndicate used because someone in design believed whimsy was a threat to civilization. But beside it was a PDF of Kluge's 2009 collection, page 147, and the grid was identical. Every black square, every word break, every symmetry trick I'd been proud of last Thursday. I hadn't opened Kluge's book in 6 years. I certainly hadn't copied it. But someone had submitted this puzzle to my editor under my name, and that someone had access to my column account. The email above the attachment was from Max Feld, not my twin. Max was the first real crossword editor who had taken me seriously when I was 28 and submitting clever little themelesses with too many opera clues. He had edited me hard, defended me harder, and still sent notes that began with apologies before delivering bad news. This one said, "Hey, I'm sure there's an explanation, but this grid appears in Kluge's 2009 collection. Maybe you sent the wrong file?" I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, because I understood it too well, and my mind kept trying to offer me a softer version. Maybe Max had opened the wrong attachment. Maybe Kluge had once used the same central revealer by coincidence. Maybe I had built a grid so ordinary it only looked like theft from across the room. Then I put my cursor on one across and followed the answers down the Kluge page with my finger. No coincidence, no wrong file, no ordinary grid. I am Ellis Crane. I make crossword puzzles for a living, which is to say, I have built an adult life out of believing that if you sit long enough with a mess, there is always one square that tells the truth. For 9 years, the Crane grid ran in regional papers from Maine to New Mexico, 62 at our peak, though my twin sister Nora always corrected people and said 63 if you counted the weekly arts insert in Boise. Nora handled the business side. Invoices, contracts, portal uploads when I was traveling, nice emails from retired librarians in Tucson who sent holiday cards and stern corrections about botanical Latin. I made the puzzles. Nora made sure the puzzles got paid for. That had been the deal since our father's kitchen table, where we learned grids on legal pads while he drank coffee from a mug that said, "I'm not arguing, I'm cluing." He drew the black squares and made us take turns filling the white ones. "You go first this time," Nora would say, when she was feeling generous or strategically lazy. Then I'd put in something like moon or tree, and she'd sigh as if I had personally lowered the standards of American letters. My phone buzzed. I flinched, which annoyed me. It was only a voicemail notification from 3 months earlier. I had been clearing old messages the night before, and apparently one had finished downloading from wherever lost voicemails go to become evidence. I tapped it. "Hey, it's Nora. Just a heads up, I had to tweak the 15 down word list for space. Don't worry, I kept your theme intact. Call me if you want a review before it goes live, but I think it reads fine." Timestamp 6:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I listened again. Not because of the hour. Nora worked at strange hours. She had once answered a syndication contract email from a ferry because she said maritime Wi-Fi brought out her best negotiating self. It was the phrase, tweak the 15 down word list. There was no such thing in our process. Not for Nora, not for anyone. The column had one rule written in all caps in our internal policy doc, the one Nora drafted after a freelancer in Sacramento asked whether he could freshen up a clue before print. No administrative edits to puzzle content. Nora wrote that sentence. Nora underlined it. Nora made me put it in the contract addendum. My hands went cold, but not dramatically, just a practical chill, as if my body had decided to preserve circulation for later. I called Max. He answered on the second ring. "Ellis? Tell me exactly what you saw." "I was hoping you'd say hello first, maybe ask about my knee." "How is your knee?" "Still attached. Listen, I didn't send this up the chain. I wanted to check with you before anyone else saw it. Thank you. There's no gentle way to say it. Same grid, same fill in 81 of 81 entries. Clues are altered in places, but not enough to make this a remix. It's Kluge. I didn't send it. I know. He said it too quickly. I closed my eyes. You don't know that. I know you, he said. I wanted to accept that. I wanted to crawl inside it like a blanket. But professional trust is not proof. It is what you are allowed to keep only after proof arrives. Who has touched it at the syndicate? Me. Only me. I caught it because I edited Kluge's anniversary reprint last year, and the corner pattern bothered me. Don't protect me if you shouldn't. I'm not protecting you. I'm pausing for facts. That was Max, a decent man with the emotional warmth of a filing cabinet and the ethics of a lighthouse. I need 24 hours, I said. You have until noon tomorrow before it enters layout. After that, I either kill it or escalate it. Kill it now. Silence. Ellis? Kill the file. Mark it withdrawn by creator request. I'll send a replacement if I can. And if you can't, then the papers run a blank square and a note that says the constructor has taken up gardening. That's not as funny as you think. It wasn't meant to be funny enough. He paused. Is Nora involved? There it was, the square I didn't want to fill. I don't know. After we hung up, I opened the syndication dashboard. I knew my password. Of course I knew it. I had set it 8 years ago, changed it when the portal forced me to, and then let Nora handle most uploading, because portals make my patience leave my body. The dashboard was where columns went to become product. I preferred the part where an idea became a grid. Nora always said, "You build the maze, I'll sell tickets." The login worked once I reset the password. The portal sent a link to my email, which Nora didn't control. But 2 minutes later, I was in. Inside was the tidy little world she had maintained for us. Upcoming deadlines, uploaded files, fee statements, distribution notes. The latest submission was the Kluge duplicate, now marked withdrawn. Uploaded by n.crane.admin. Nora's user ID. That proved nothing by itself. She had uploaded legitimate puzzles for me dozens of times when I was on trains, at conferences, once from the waiting room at St. Agnes Neurology while I pretended not to be scared of the word lesion. Administrative upload was allowed. Creative substitution was not. I clicked the file. My byline in the PDF header. Her upload ID in the record. The lie had both our fingerprints on it. My first impulse was to call her and ask one question so loudly it would carry across town without cell service. Instead, I made tea. This sounds calm. It was not. It was the action of a woman who has learned that panic is just energy with bad manners. I filled the kettle, spilled water on the counter, wiped it up with my sleeve, then stood there until the kettle clicked off and I remembered to put tea in the mug. My neurologist, Dr. Patel, called my symptoms early-stage cognitive changes associated with demyelinating disease, which was medically accurate and socially useless. It meant that on bad days, I misplaced nouns. Fatigue turned ordinary tasks into rooms with the lights flickering. I could still construct a crossword grid, but sometimes forgot I had already clued 37 across and wrote another clue 3 rows below it. It did not mean I plagiarized. I had told Nora almost everything. Not the worst of it, because twins have a private economy of disclosure. She knew about the diagnosis, medication, speech therapy exercises, the days when I lay on the floor and counted backward by 7s because Dr. Patel said it was good practice, and I said it was a hate crime against sick people. She also knew how much the column mattered. Every morning, sick or not, I sat at my desk with graph paper, software, coffee, and the stubborn belief that if I could build one clean pattern, my brain was still mine. That ritual had become less a job than a rope bridge. and now someone had cut boards from the middle. I needed proof before I spoke to Nora. Not because I wanted to trap her, because if I asked too early, she would explain. Nora had been explaining the world to me since we were 5. She was good at making a bad plan sound like an act of weather. So I built a decoy, a commemorative lunar landing puzzle, which I chose because I have never cared about space, except as a convenient 4-letter word. I made the theme entries obvious enough to be plausible. Giant leap, tranquility, moonwalk, eagle has landed. I deliberately left 2 weak fill sections and an ugly crossing at 15 down. No one who knew my standards would submit it without asking. I exported a draft PDF, named it crane_lunar-draft.notfinal.pdf, and emailed it only to Nora. Subject, possible Friday backup. Body, rough idea, not ready. Can you tell me if the theme feels too stale before I waste time polishing? I sent the email at 11:10 a.m. At 1:12 p.m., Nora replied, "Cute, a little obvious, but holiday-adjacent obvious sells. Want me to pencil it into the backup slot?" I typed, "Not yet, needs work." I did not send it. At 5:42 p.m., the portal chimed. New file uploaded, crane_final.pdf. Uploaded by n.crane.admin. My mouth filled with a metallic taste. I opened the PDF. She had fixed the ugly 15 down crossing. She had changed my clue for tranquility from state of calm to see where the eagle landed, which was better, annoyingly. She had also left 2 draft clues with question marks after them because she must have missed them in the rush. For 1 second, absurdly, I felt embarrassed by the sloppiness. Then the anger arrived. Not hot, but clean. The way the first black square in a fresh grid feels before you've committed to anything. The decoy proved one thing. Nora could and did upload puzzle content under my name without authorization after I had explicitly marked it not final. It did not prove the Kluge theft. It did not prove 18 months. It did not prove motive. But it changed the next available action. I took screenshots of the submission record, full screen, date and time visible. I downloaded the PDF and saved it in a folder named Receipts because I am not above naming things like a person in a courtroom drama when alone in my apartment. Then I went back to the dashboard and looked for logs. The portal had a left side menu I had never respected enough to explore. Content archive, distribution notes, metadata export. I clicked metadata export and found filters by date range. I set the range for the last 2 years. Download CSV. Rows and rows of my life appeared in a spreadsheet. Titles, deadlines, file names, upload IDs, status flags, originality certifications. Most entries were uploaded by ecrane.creator, me. Some were uploaded by n.crane.admin, Nora. Expected. I filtered by her ID. 46 uploads. My stomach tightened, then eased slightly when I recognized many as corrected versions of puzzles I had actually made. Not every Nora footprint was a crime. I added another filter. Originality flag equals yes. Submission type, final puzzle. Creator approval field, auto-certified. 23 rows remained. The Kluge puzzle, the lunar decoy, 21 others over 18 months. I stared at the number until it stopped being a number and became a room I had been living beside without opening the door. 23. Not a mistake. Not a bad week. Not a single desperate deadline. I sorted by date. The first questionable upload was 18 months earlier. I opened the archived PDF. It looked like me. That was the worst part. Nora had not grabbed random puzzles from the internet. She had chosen work that could pass through the silhouette of my style. Medium difficulty, slightly literary, a fondness for misdirected common phrases. She knew my habits well enough to counterfeit them. The proof needed more. A spreadsheet showed access and timing, but not theft. The portal had a tiny information icon beside each archived file. I clicked it. A panel opened. File name, uploaded by, submission timestamp, date created, date modified, version history. The Kluge duplicate had been uploaded Monday at 11:32 p.m. Date modified, Monday 11:21 p.m. Date created, 11 days earlier. The solve key file, uploaded separately as documentation, had date created Monday 11:18 p.m. Crossword constructors create solve keys from final grids. Yes, in my workflow, the grid and key are generated within minutes of each other, or the key comes automatically from the software. What Nora had done was different. The puzzle file existed on her machine for 11 days before the solve key was made. She had a completed grid first, then later created documentation to make it look like an original construction package. One file could be weird, a template, a software quirk. 23 would be a pattern. Each archived submission got the same treatment. Click, screenshot, note the gap. On the 5th puzzle, the gap was 6 days. On the 8th, 19. On the 12th, the puzzle file was created before the title had appeared in my own notes. That one made me stop. I keep notebooks. Not romantic leather-bound things with ribbon bookmarks. Cheap spiral notebooks from the pharmacy, because I resent expensive paper for making me feel watched. I date pages. I sketch theme sets. For the 12th puzzle, titled Middle Management, my first notebook entry was April 6th. Nora's uploaded file had date created March 28, 9 days before I thought I had conceived it. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes until sparks appeared. Then I kept going. By midnight, I had the decoy proof, the CSV export, and 23 sets of metadata screenshots. The evidence had climbed from possible unauthorized upload to repeated unauthorized upload to reverse-engineered documentation. But it still had one missing rung, the actual sources. I messaged Max. I need access to old puzzle collections. Kluge 2009 for sure, possibly others. Can I call you in the morning? His reply came 2 minutes later. Call now. So I did. I told him enough. The decoy, the logs, the timestamps. He did not interrupt until I said 23. Then he said, very quietly, Ellis, I'm so sorry. I didn't want sorry. Sorry made it real in a way screenshots did not. Can you help me identify sources? Yes. You don't have to. I know. It may damage the column. It should damage the column if the column published stolen work. There was Max's lighthouse again, sweeping its beam directly into my face. I'm gonna self-report, I said. I had not known it until I said it. To the board? Yes. That will trigger review. I know. They may suspend you. They may terminate. I know that too. Max's voice softened, which for him meant it lost about 10% of its gravel. What do you need from me? The truth, and introductions if we find the constructors. I want to pay them. Not hush money, commission fees, permission where possible, apologies either way. You want me to help you build the case that hurts you. Yes. Another pause. All right, he said. I'll help. But I'm going to be extremely annoying about documentation. Max, that's why I called. The next day, I went to the public library with a list of suspected sources and a canvas bag that said, support your local bookstore, because hypocrisy is often machine washable. Max had emailed names based on oddities he recognized. Kluge's 2009 collection, Anna Sato's Sunday volume from 2015, a limited-run constructor anthology I had to buy used because the library copy had been loved to death, and 2 books by D.R. Venn. I sat at a long table under fluorescent lights and compared published puzzles to my archive. This was not glamorous detective work. It was a woman with a laptop, 5 books, a mechanical pencil, and a growing hatred for page glare. I checked black square placement, theme entries, fill, clues, word lists. Some were not exact copies. Nora had altered clues, swapped a corner, changed a plural, replaced a dated pop culture answer with something newer. Enough to fool a casual solver, not enough to fool anyone doing a side-by-side comparison. I made packets, our published PDF on the left, source puzzle on the right, matching entries highlighted in yellow, altered clues in blue. I logged title, publication date, source page, and metadata. The first 3 packets made me angry. By the 10th, anger had become a job. By the 17th, I understood something that made me feel sicker than theft. Nora had curated the stolen puzzles around my bad months. Infusion weeks, medication changes, the week I forgot the word colander while holding one and cried in the kitchen because Nora said too brightly, "pasta hat," and I laughed, then cried harder. Every questionable upload sat near a dip in my health. I added a column from my calendar. Appointments, flare-ups, missed workdays. The pattern was not random. That did not excuse it. In some ways, it made it harder to hate cleanly. I called Nora that evening. She answered with her usual, "Please tell me you ate something besides crackers." "No." "Ellis." I found the portal logs. Silence. The kind only twins can create. Not empty, full of everything rushing to one side of the room. "What logs?" she said. "The ones showing your uploads." "That's not... I upload for you all the time." "I sent you a lunar draft yesterday. I told you it wasn't ready. You uploaded it as final." A breath. "I was going to tell you." "No, you weren't." "It needed maybe 20 minutes. I fixed the bad down entry." "You submitted an unfinished decoy." "Decoy?" Her voice sharpened. "You set me up?" "I tested whether you would do what I was afraid you were doing." "That's a setup." "Yes." For a second, I heard our childhood in it. "Nora, what do you think you know?" "I know about Kluge." She said nothing. "I know about 23 uploads over 18 months. I know the files were created on your machine days or weeks before the solve keys. I know at least some match published collections." "At least some," she repeated bitterly. "So you've been busy." "I've been robbed." That landed. I could tell by the way she inhaled. "I did not rob you. You put stolen work under my name. I kept us alive." The words came out like they had been waiting behind her teeth. I gripped the edge of my desk. "Explain." "You were missing deadlines." "I missed 1. You missed pieces of 6. You don't remember because I cleaned it up before you saw it." My throat tightened. "That was not your decision." "You were sick." "I am sick. Present tense. Still not your decision." "You think I don't know that?" Her voice broke, then hardened. "You think I wanted to sit at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning trying to make a vent?" "You could have told the syndicate we needed a hiatus." "You would have said no." "You didn't ask." "You would have said no," she repeated. There it was, the deeper betrayal beneath the obvious one. Not that Nora believed. No, they don't. Not if we fix it going forward. That is not fixing it. That is hiding it more neatly. You think public shame is justice? I think correction is the minimum. You'll lose everything. I already lost more than you understand. I regretted the sentence as soon as I said it, because it was both true and designed to hurt. "Nora," I said, softer. "Why didn't you tell me?" This time, When her voice came back, it sounded like my sister and not my manager. "Because Dad disappeared in pieces," she said. "And everyone kept pretending he was just tired until he put the kettle in the refrigerator and called me by Mom's name for a year." Our father had died at 61 from a neurological disease that never received a tidy name. My diagnosis was not his. Dr. Patel had said that skillfully more than once. But fear is a lazy researcher. It cites family history and stops looking. "I am not Dad," I said. "I know." "No, you don't." "I know," she insisted, then smaller. "I don't know what I want," I said. "I know what the work requires." After we hung up, I changed the portal password and removed Nora's user permissions. User n.crane.admin removed from content submission access. A little gray banner. That was all. The next morning, I wrote the email to the syndication board. I did not make it pretty. Pretty is dangerous when harm has been done. I stated that I had discovered multiple plagiarized puzzles published under my byline. I stated that the unauthorized submissions had been uploaded through my column account by my business partner and twin sister, Nora Crane, without my knowledge, and that I accepted responsibility for the byline and for failure to supervise the submission process. I attached the CSV, screenshots, side-by-side comparisons, Kluge email from Max, and lunar decoy record. I requested immediate retraction of the 23 affected columns from digital archives and notices to client papers. I asked that no further Crane Grid puzzles run until review was complete. I offered to fund replacement puzzles by the original constructors, or if they declined, by constructors selected by the board. Before sending, I forwarded the draft to Max. He called 5 minutes later. "Remove the sentence where you say your illness made you negligent." It did. No, it made you vulnerable to someone else's misconduct. That's a distinction with a very sharp edge, and you need it to stay sharp. You can accept responsibility without writing their defense. She was scared. She was wrong. Both can be true. They are. The board only needs the part relevant to correction. I deleted the sentence. Then he said, "I can reach Kluge's estate rep, Anna Sato and Ven. The anthology rights are messier, but I know someone." Of course you do. I am very old. You're 58. In crossword years, that's a Galapagos tortoise. I laughed, which startled me. "Send the email, Ellis." So I did. There is no satisfying sound when you press send on the destruction of your own reputation. Just a soft whoosh, cheerful as a paper airplane. The response took 6 hours. At 4:18 p.m., syndication director Pamela Rowe called. "Ellis, we've reviewed your initial documentation. First, thank you for self-reporting." That phrase sounded institutional and inadequate, like a condolence card bought in bulk. "We are suspending distribution of your column pending full audit. The 23 items you identified will be pulled from the archive today. Client papers will receive a retraction notice. We'll need your cooperation with rights review." You have it. We also need confirmation that Nora Crane no longer has content access. She doesn't. I can send the permission change log. Please do. Pamela paused. There will be reputational consequences. I know. I'm saying that as a courtesy, not a threat. I understand. And Ellis? Yes. Most people make us find this. I closed my eyes. Most people aren't emailed page 147 of Kluge before breakfast. No, she said. They are not. The retraction notice went out 2 days later. It was brief, factual, and humiliating. The Crane Grid has identified 23 previously syndicated puzzles containing material substantially duplicated from prior published works. These puzzles are withdrawn from the archive. The column is on indefinite hiatus pending review.
We apologize to constructors, publishers, client newspapers, and solvers.
My name sat at the bottom, not Nora's, mine. That was correct. Not complete, but correct. The emails began within an hour. Some were kind, some were not. A man from Ohio wrote, "My wife and I solved you every morning for 7 years. We feel stupid now." That one hurt more than the message calling me a thief, because he was right about the morning and wrong about the stupidity, and there was no way to fix either. The constructors were harder. Max arranged the introductions. He did not soften them. Anna Sato listened while I apologized. She asked 3 precise questions about distribution, payment, and whether her clues had been altered. "Yes," I said. "Some." "Were they improved?" she asked. I blinked. 1 or 2. Typical. I could hear her filing something, a nail maybe, or a pencil sharpener, while she decided whether to sue me. I almost smiled. I offered to pay a full original commission fee for a replacement puzzle and an additional licensing fee for the misused work if she would accept it.
"I'll take the replacement commission," she said. "Donate the licensing amount to the Pre-Shorts Constructor Archive." Done. Dr. Venn declined to speak by phone, but sent an email. "I appreciate the disclosure. I do not appreciate being strip-mined for your crisis. Fee attached. Do not contact me after payment except through counsel or publisher." Fair. Kluge's estate representative was polite and icy. The anthology editor was furious, and then, after 20 minutes, tired. In each case, I paid what was asked, or what Max told me was standard plus apology, without haggling. The reserve covered it, barely. There wouldn't be a second round of amends. The money came from the column reserve Nora had built with such care. Using it felt like spending from a jar labeled future to buy back pieces of the past. Nora did not object. She sent spreadsheets when Pamela requested them. She forwarded contracts, she answered rights questions promptly and without defending herself in writing. That was its own receipt, though not one I could attach to anything official. Nora choosing, finally, not to manage the story. 2 weeks after the retraction, she came to my apartment. She brought groceries, which was either sisterly instinct or a peace offering from the church of, "You look thin." She left them by the door when I didn't move to help. "I won't stay," she said. "All right." She looked older. Since we are twins, I took that personally. "I wrote a statement," she said, "for the board. Full responsibility for the unauthorized uploads. No excuses. Pamela said they'd add it to the review file." Good. "I also resigned as administrative representative for creative submissions." "You were removed already." "I know. This is for client contracts. I won't be the named content contact anymore. Only billing, if they even let me keep that." I nodded. She stood in my entryway, hands clasped. Nora, who could negotiate kill fees with men who called her sweetheart and leave them thanking her for the privilege, looked like she was waiting outside the principal's office. "I thought I was saving the thing that saved you," she said. "I know. I didn't understand I was poisoning it. I know that too. Do you hate me?" There are questions people ask when they want absolution, and questions they ask because they need a map. Nora's sounded like the second. "No," I said. Her face crumpled for half a second before she controlled it. "But I don't trust you with my work," I added. "I know. And I don't trust myself the way I did." She flinched. "I keep looking at old grids," I said. "Ones I know I made. Ones from before all this. And now there's this little voice asking, 'Are you sure?' That's what you gave me. Not just public shame. Not just money." The board's final decision came at the end of the month. The column would remain on indefinite hiatus. The archive would keep retraction notices attached to affected dates.
My contract was not terminated, but no new work would be accepted until I submitted an independent verification process, a new access protocol, and a medical accommodation plan if I chose to return. That last phrase stung, then settled. If I chose to return. Nora was allowed to continue handling non-creative business administration under restricted access, pending my written approval and board oversight. No content uploads, no originality certifications, no editorial communications without copying me. It was a consequence with paperwork, not thunder. People who want revenge often imagine a final scene where the wrongdoer is exposed under bright lights and everyone finally understands. Real consequences are quieter. A permission revoked, a notice published, a payment sent, a reputation dented in ways that do not show evenly. A sister standing in your hallway with grocery bags and no authority left to help you incorrectly.
I did not get my old life back. The 23 retractions remained. So did the emails. So did the little hesitation before I trusted a completed grid. But the stolen puzzles were no longer hiding under my name. The authors had been told. The board had the receipts. Nora could not submit another square for me if she panicked at midnight. The structure that allowed the betrayal was gone. That had to be enough for justice. Justice, I was learning, didn't fill every square. It just made sure the black ones stayed where you put them. A week after the board decision, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk for printer paper and found my father's old puzzle notebook. I had taken it from his house after the funeral, and then avoided it, with the respect we give objects that know too much. The cover was soft blue cardboard, corners bent, his name written on the front in black marker. H. Crane. Grids, bad ideas, possible genius. I laughed and cried at the same time, which is an inelegant sound and should not be attempted near open tea. Near the back were the grids Nora and I had filled as children. My rounder letters, her sharper ones, places where we argued in the margins. Ellis says elm too much. Nora thinks she invented Oreo. Dad had drawn arrows to our worst crossings and written, "Sisters, please make your mistakes more interesting." On the last page, the grid was blank. Not old blank, recent blank. The paper had been smoothed, and tucked against the spine was a blue sticky note in Nora's handwriting. She must have put it there when she brought the groceries. Of course she had known where I kept the notebook. Of course she had chosen not to mention it. I should have been angry at the intrusion. Maybe part of me was. But the note was small. No apology, no explanation. No attempt to manage what I did next. Just 7 words in blue ink. "You go first this time." I sat with the notebook open for a long while. Then I picked up a pencil. I did not start a syndicated column. I did not prove I was healed. I did not forgive everything because a sentimental object appeared at the right moment. Life is not that obedient. I drew one black square in the upper left corner. It was not much of a beginning. In fact, by most construction standards, it was inconvenient. But it was mine.